the quest is so much slower. Yeah, I'd say.
Yep.
So we're
How to
gonna
head right
get
into
into
this
the
game.
first match.
And you know, we were just talking about Quest Rogue versus Druid, and we get
Here
to
we
see
go.
it first hand, ladies and gentlemen, right off the bat. It's going to be Royce on the Quest Rogue and Oroshi on the Druid. And we'll see. I mean, Novice Engineer is always nice to have in your opening hand.
Absolutely. Seems like he's debating about it a little bit, whether he wants to keep it or not. Maybe go for a bounce right off the bat.
And I'm pretty sure they're running the list with the Fireflies and all of that, but Keliseth in the opening hand for Orochi. And you can see she's happy about that.
Absolutely. There seems to be
one
technical issue. Just a minute here, folks.
Yeah, so she has to turn the deck tracker on.
Right.
Deck trackers are allowed. Royce is going to politely let the rope go like a gentleman. And now, I mean, turn 2 is kind of...
Oh, yeah. And here comes Keliseth.
And I think, you know, Royce feels confident in his play. He's got Vanish in hand, which is quite nice.
Right.
Really nice for the Keliseth. Do they come back buffed into the hand? I don't think they do. I could be wrong. I could be very
so
wrong.
either.
We're gonna find out. He's gonna vanish and buff.
Oh
minions,
yeah,
and
I'm
we're
sure.
gonna, for the name of science. And double scale high pickup off of the Mimic Pod is very nice.
Right.
He chooses not to trade this off. It's okay because you have double stack hand in hand. You can deal with it quite easily.
So we're gonna start seeing some of those buff minions come out here, and the greedy sprite's a nice pickup. Want to get that mana ramped as quickly as possible.
The one thing we don't see is the Spiteful in hand. So
he does have
there's
Archivist though.
He does have Archivist in hand, which is very nice, but it comes out a lot later.
Right.
So when you're thinking of power swings, you're gonna want to pressure the rogue down like very quickly.
Right.
And a power play on 8 can sometimes be a little too late against the rogue. But you know, we'll see for sure. What do you think? What are you thinking here in terms of this play?
I'm thinking the scale hide. I totally agree with this. And start just trying to keep the board a little clear, clean for the most part, so that it doesn't get too out of hand with all the Keliseth buffs. Spiteful Druid has a lot of just like minions that will overrun you if you let them just sit out on the board for long enough.
Chain Gang comes out unbuffed, which is kind of nice to see. It's nice to see for Royce though, and the prep is huge because now he could realistically, if he wanted to, and I don't know if you do it just yet because it's not worth it, but you could scale hide, prep, and then vanish for 3 mana.
Right.
And you get 2 scale hides back in your hand. But you don't have the bouncers. I think you want to cycle a little bit more before you do that. So maybe you play a deck hand and
a minstrel
here to cycle your hand. Or, I mean, he could take that line.
Right.
But I don't think this is banish worthy just yet. I think you want to see him commit a little more, buff his minions a little more.
I would agree with that.
Get more value out of the plays here. Because, I mean, we have Fungal Mancer coming out. I call him the Fungi Boy, and I'm going to keep doing that. Fungi Boy coming out next turn. You could play it slow if you wanted to, too. But I think
go with the boar.
Mainly because he values deck hand more than boar in this scenario.
Right.
So you're going to trade this off. It's a very good pickup.
Absolutely.
But we don't want to do anything just yet. We're going to trade everything off. We're going to trade the weapon in. I mean, now we have a semi-compatible board. You're not overrun on board. You have Prep Vanish, which is huge in this matchup. I think you always see Fungal Mancer here, and maybe that forces the Prep Vanish. It depends how much damage you want to take. I think you're going to need to this turn.
Yeah, I definitely see that coming out here.
So you
probably...
Yeah, you're going to want to play both of these and then Prep Vanish. And you can play 1 back if you want to. So now you'll be able to play 3, and then you'll have... You need 1 more bouncer to make that happen. And I mean, I really like this play. You
yeah.
probably could play one out now if you wanted to. It's not the worst thing in the world. You have one left. So I think I actually like playing one. You've now played 3. You have the 4th in your hand, and the 5th can get picked up by a bouncer. You have double Shadow Step in here in your deck still.
Absolutely. Youthful Brewmasters.
You know, this is a little slow. I mean, we have the Glacial Shard to stall.
Right. I believe he also has, what, Zola and Sonya Shadowblade as well?
Yeah.
So those act
I mean,
some,
that
and
could be the quest right there if he wants to. So he plays one, bounces it. You could freeze the other one if you wanted to as well to mitigate some of that damage. And also, it's worth noting that he has that Scale Hide in hand for that when that quest gets complete.
Absolutely.
So I actually don't hate playing one and then freezing. And maybe you could fit a card draw in there as well. Or you could play it next turn. You can always play it next turn.
Right.
Or
because that way you can play it alongside the quest as well, and get automatic 5 damage.
I hope you like my invention.
So I think that's what he's gonna do here.
I think you
so
still
it's
want
a
to freeze
draw.
and mitigate some damage. You know the Fungal Mancer's in hand, so you don't want to take another 8 here.
Absolutely.
And I don't hate this either. I think there's merit to this as well.
Right.
But if you're playing, you're definitely trading it off. So it protects your other minions.
Yeah, at this point, he just wants to have a board to buff with the quest. Orochi.
I mean, next turn is fairly solid, but Orochi has a couple. I mean, you could always just
Could Malfurion.
Malfurion here, and I think you might take the spiders,
Right.
knowing that you could kill some 5/5s with them.
Absolutely.
Because he's not going to really have time to fan next turn.
Yeah, no.
Because he's going to want to play
The quest.
Quest and Scale Hide. So Malfurion, if you go for taunts, I mean you mitigate a lot of the damage, but they just die
Right.
to 5/5s like fairly
immediately.
easily. So I actually don't hate going with spiders here. We'll see the taunts come down because like I think sometimes you really just want to stay alive.
Right.
The boar pickup is actually huge. It's another charger.
Absolutely.
He might save it. Yeah. And so the healing drive starts now. I think you want to save the boar just for some other charge shenanigans, charge bounce shenanigans.
Right.
I think next turn, if it's still alive, you're going to want to Zola the Scale High just to never die, right?
Right. It depends. I think it also depends on what Orochi decides to play as well, because since it's a rush minion, it can't hit face. So you might wanna.
That's interesting that it stays as a 5/5. I did not know that.
Oh yeah, that is interesting.
So we chose to keep the Scale High alive, which is tough because now you get all this lifesteal.
Right.
I think Orochi has a tough spot here. Could always she wants to go wide next turn because eventually she's gonna want to play this Grand Archivist, and the Zola coming out on the Scale Hide really just you can play the Scale Hide and then you can Minstrel and refill your hand.
Yeah. Plus, you're getting rid of the taunt right off the bat, and you're gaining 10 life back as well.
Seems good. Seems good to gain 10 life. So, I mean, this is some really solid quest drawer play. One of the things that is tough about bringing this to the tournament is you really need to play it really well.
Absolutely.
And to pick up a win with it against, a deck that it's probably 50-50.
I would say.
Is really, it feels really good. You didn't have to queue it into the Paladin, so you didn't have to really play the slight unfavorable. And you didn't have to queue it into Warlock. I mean, that Warlock would have been the optimal person to play it against. We choose not to Minstrel. That's fine. You have Fan and Knives for that.
Right.
So next turn, I mean, I think you just go wide this turn if you're Orochi.
I would agree.
Now do you?
Ooh.
You could always do that.
She's going to.
But
What's
you
in
can
the
still
box?
go wide.
What's in the box?
If it's an 8/8, it just I don't think it does enough.
Right.
That does enough.
Tyrantus.
Because you can't even sap that. Not that there's a sap being run, but because I believe there is not a sap in Royce's deck. Not that that would matter, but there is no sap in the deck. So that's very big. That's a very big Tyrantus pickup. But you know what's really good?
Vanish.
Vanish.
Vanish is
Vanish
a
a good
great
card.
That's
Yeah.
a card.
And you could even kill the You could even kill the Spiteful Summoner. Right?
Yeah, you could.
So Tyrantus
actually.
is just stuck in hand. She has to spend
Actually,
10 mana to play her next turn.
Right. I'd prefer if he killed the Glacial, though, I think, because that's going to be more of a problem for him because he just needs to go face. He needs to keep hitting face at this point. Most of the minions that come off the 10-mana minions that come off of Spiteful Summoner don't have taunt. So if he can get enough going where she can't stop him, then she's fine. That's the Glacial Shard will stop that, of course, though.
Obviously, we're gonna want to try and find some chargers. Lich King burn?
Whoa.
There's a lot worse cards. There's a lot of cards that you could burn that are not Lich King. And we're choosing to not just drop Tyrantus again here. We're going to Spiteful again, which is kind of like, I think you could trade if you wanted to.
Right.
You can avoid facing another 10-mana minion. It's always tough to deal with. Not as scary as a 12/12.
That's true.
But now, like you said, this Glacial Shard gets the value again, gets to freeze again.
Yeah, see, that's that I think is like the main problem. However, since Royce has Fan of Knives, he can still get rid of the taunt and the Glacial Shard.
Yes.
If he Fan of Knives first and then run the Scale Hide into the taunt.
You could also try and find a charger from Mimic Pod. I think we have a boar left in the deck.
Right,
And,
that's right.
Because we've seen both deck hands.
Yes.
So there's a chargers, it's just one boar.
Right.
And if you Mimic Pod into 2 boars, that is twice the amount of boars.
That isn't twice the amount of boars.
It is.
It is extra board control.
And I mean, we were seeing Royce at 10 HP a couple turns ago, back up very stabilized at 30. Could even Zola this if he wanted to.
He can Zola it, he can Shadow Step it, and then run it into the Summoner.
I would really like to see a Mimic Pod this turn, though. The one thing we can't really see is how many cards are in his deck, so we don't know if fatigue's an issue, but this 5/5 is going to do work. This Wax Elemental.
Oh boy.
And Queststroke's such a funky deck too, because you get to see cards like Wax Elemental getting play.
Right.
Like what a weird card, but it gets there. I mean, choosing to save the Scale High to get value. Now Oroshi has a couple of decisions to make. She can go wide this turn. I do like going wide. I think eventually you just have to go.
Right.
Fungal are coming down. That's a 9/15.
That's a very large dude.
It's a ultra sore right there.
Yeah.
Now Shadow Step. I'm sure
So
he could find lethal this turn.
I think he has lethal this turn.
Oh, he does
already.
have lethal this turn. Yes, he does. Correct.
Oh wait.
No, he needs to find a charger, right?
No,
No, he has lethal.
no, he has it.
lethal. There it is. The Shadow Step was lethal.
Yes.
So picked up lethal for Royce. Very well played game, I think.
Absolutely. I think he navigated that very well and kept Orochi from really trying to playing reactive, basically.
But also credit to Orochi though, put him in a tough spot where he needed that vanish.
Absolutely.
So Orochi really pressuring the board well, just kind of getting, you don't want to say unlucky because you have to play to your outs in this game, but slightly, unlucky on the fact that he was able to draw one of those vanishes, right?
Right. Absolutely.
It was second vanish, correct?
The second vanish.
Yeah, because
really
we saw prep vanish
Right.
earlier in the game to clear the board, and then the second vanish coming off the top right after the Spiteful is that's tough. It's tough to see, and because we were just talking about how do you deal with this Tyrantus?
Absolutely, because there's nothing really else that you could do other than run 3 minions into it to get rid of it.
And that's 15 damage later in the game.
Exactly.
Those minions are 5/5s. You don't like trading them in. So we see Royce getting the win with the Questrogue, which I think if you're bringing Questrogue, like you just love to take a breather after you get a win with that deck because it's so powerful. But sometimes it's just a mentally draining deck to play.
Right, for sure. There's so much to take into account when you're playing Questrogue because you have to not only keep track of the quests, but also you're always looking ahead to, will I need this later? Is this okay to play now? That kind of thing. So it's a very thought-heavy deck. It's very, very, very well played and very carefully thought out by Royce.
So our players are queuing up for game 2. Royce up 1-0. And this to go to 3-0, and if you're 3-0, you basically win 1 out of the next 3, and you might sneak into the top 16 there.
Absolutely.
So Royce queuing up the Paladin
Mm-hmm.
against the Spiteful Druid. I'm not too familiar. I haven't played too much Spiteful Druid, so I don't really know how the matchup is favored or unfavored.
Right.
I don't know if maybe you have any idea on whether or not even
Um,
Paladin is favored or unfavored.
I haven't played Even Paladin. I've been playing Odd, so I'm not as familiar. Although we saw it last match, Samwin and I, not against Spiteful Druid, but it plays quickly. So it's kind of, but it's not quite as fast as the Odd.
It's not as fast as the Odd, and I think it maybe runs into trouble if Spiteful can get out, but then there's that card.
Yeah.
The card that was just picked up off the top, which is essentially the game breaker for Spiteful, because you spend 6 mana, and you get this crazy 10/10, or whatever you get. You get 10 mana, 10 mana minion. And then next thing you know,
It's a 3/3.
It's gone. It's sad, and you're sad, and everyone else is sad, because we were rooting for it.
Absolutely. I would love to see just Deathwing like kick the crap out of somebody.
And all of a sudden, there's a 5-2, right?
Yeah.
So now we see some pressure on Oroshi. She might have to play this coin early, because you love to coin out Spiteful here.
Right.
Because now you have second Spiteful. So you can go Spiteful into Spiteful.
That would be great. But
And that seems like that's what she's going to do, but she's going to take some damage while she does it.
absolutely.
And we saw Sea Giant in Royce's list, and I think that's a... I know some people are including it, but I think that
Right.
might be a
That's a more
a
unique.
practice group special there. That's the
I believe so, yeah.
Team Simple over here. That's
Simple.
the Team Simple special.
Yeah, Team Simple is a local group of practice partners for Hearthstone, including Royce, Freyas, and Blacksnap, who we just saw on stream last
game.
match.
Yep.
Yes.
And the value from this 1 mana hero power, it's just nice. Like, you can fit it into a lot of turns. Even if this snipe goes to the 2/3, if this snipe goes to this stone, it didn't, so now he has to double trade, which is a little unfortunate.
Right.
But still gets to push that 7 damage to face, and next thing you know, you're at 14. So you're coining out Spiteful, but you're dead on board.
Yeah, that. Okay, so she picked up a glacial shard, so she can
Stay alive.
yeah, she can stay alive, stem some of the bleeding essentially.
But here's something I say about the game a lot is, like, you're making a play to stay alive, but are you making a play to win the game?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure how she's gonna get out of this one. Royce is really just keeping the pressure rolling.
And this is actually just lethal with Tarim.
Yeah.
3, 3, 3, and 4 is exactly what he needed. So Royce kind of just rolling
Absolutely.
over this Spiteful Druid. And I think that's the problem Spiteful Druid runs into sometimes if it's not able to get its Serenite Chain Gangs out soon enough.
Yeah, that is the one hard thing against the new Paladin decks that have been coming out. They're very old school aggro, just beat your face in basically, and curve out as best you can, even with the even or odd mana blanks. But you really have to keep the board clear against them and just keep them off board as much as possible. And that's really hard for Spiteful Druid to do because they don't carry swipe. The only spells that they have are Ultimate Infestation. And by the time you actually get the value off of the ultimate, it's too late.
Yeah. And now we have Royce going into, he's up 2-0, and he has Q block. And it's a
deck.
It's a tough deck to beat 3 times in a row.
Absolutely. It's probably the strongest deck in the meta right now, I would say. It's definitely tier 1 for sure. So. Ooh, and we're gonna see a mirror match.
Yeah, so the Warlock Mirror coming out and, you know, sending back Gul'dan but keeping Doomsayer is nice against Giants.
Right.
We do see 2 Mountain Giants in both players' list. Yeah, so we see, obviously, Skulls, faceless. Royce with the Lord Godfrey. Really good against a Gul'dan board.
Right.
Can kind of clear a whole Gul'dan board. Prince Taldaram in Royce's list, but Prince Keleseth in Oroshi's list.
That's interesting.
You run 2 Defiles and 2 Doomsayers. So,
You have to pull them from your deck before you run the Keleseth.
yes.
Interesting.
I mean, maybe we could see it work. I mean, you could buff Doom Guards. You're not running that many minions either, so it's tough. But we see the Keleseth, but we don't see the Keleseth in hand, but we can't play it yet. So it's very interesting to see how this is going to work. She's just going to try and dig to get to these 2-mana spells, right?
Absolutely.
Truth is found in death.
I think Royce is confused
Royce is
too.
a little confused as to what this is all about. He's just going to tap. He's just
Fair
going to
enough.
tap and move on.
Decides to play it for the body. It looks like she's gonna continue tapping. She may try to race him.
She could try and race him, but also if she hadn't tapped, she would have had Mountain Giant on 4.
Right.
Not that that matters now because the Doomsayer came down, so it did not matter.
Right.
But other than you know our Keleseth shenanigans, Oroshi's hand is looking pretty good. So the board's gonna be clear, but we have no demons in hand for Royce. But that just changed. So now we see Coin Weapon. We see no weapon removal in Oroshi's hand. She's gonna play the Lackey here, I'd imagine. And in the mirror, a lot of the times, I feel as if, especially now that you know Royce is running one Spellbreaker, so that's worth noting. But
Right.
in the mirror, a lot of the time, you want to save your packs for the cubes because that's where all the value is. So, but now we
Right.
can see.
And there's the
He
Spellbreaker
could,
as well.
so he wanted to faceless, right? But there's a Spellbreaker,
Right.
and that's just it slows a lot of things down. You know that there's no weapon that would have been played probably that turn,
Right.
and you don't know what's in hand, but she has a lot of demons in her hand. Silencing this really limits like the only way that he gets demons out.
That's true. So, and he decides to go for it.
Now, Orochi with a couple options. I think maybe you just have to... You can faceless there. That's pretty solid, actually. So what do you think if you're Royce here? Do you want a faceless or cube packed?
I think I prefer cube packed.
Or giant?
Giant's good.
I liked
too.
giant as well. Once
That's
we saw giant off the top, I was like,
like,
we might just play that
Seems good.
instead. Because we could start going off with giants as well. We could cube pack giants if we really wanted to.
That's true.
Orochi really needs to consider getting some value out of the second Lackey before that final demon gets drawn.
That's, yeah. The only demon she has left in her deck is the other Doom Guard. So I'd personally like to see that come out. She could also drop her own Mountain Giant. And then it's kind of a board race at that point.
Yeah, I like this play.
I do too.
You know, Cube coming out is very nice. She has a way, if this, Cube's actually super nice because now she has a way to capitalize off of this Doom Guard.
Doom Guard,
What
yeah.
she didn't have, she had a Doom Guard and then it died and then, oh, I'm out of Doom Guards. And you don't like to see that. So, you know, Orochi with Gul'dan in hand, a way to get some Doom Guards out.
Right. The only thing that she is lacking, she doesn't have a way to kill the cube herself. But the nice thing is that Royce only carries one Spellbreaker.
Yep. Which I think is all you can really fit in Cube Block at this point.
Yeah.
And Royce choosing to go big on the Mountain Giants, which is a very valid stance because, I mean, you could push 16 next turn if you wanted to.
Absolutely. The only thing about cubing the Giants is once they're dead, they're dead. They're not coming back with Gul'dan. So if Orochi finds some way to clear this board, Royce may have trouble later, depending on how the draws go and everything.
So you see the Doom Guard coming on here. I think you trade, and then you've seen one Spell Breaker. You know there's not a second one. You could also Faceless. The Faceless off the top is really, really nice as well. I think that's something we probably should have noted on the top deck was
Absolutely.
she can now Faceless it.
Yeah, and then that's more Doom Guards coming back later.
Exactly. And then it's a race because at turn 10 you just it's like 5 Doom Guards. Not 5, but 2 at this point.
At least,
it could be
yeah.
more after all of this. But also it's just a lot of damage coming to the face next turn. It could realistically be so double Doomsayer coming out. Yeah, no, it's just a setup, I think. 16. Yeah, this is pretty solid. Oh, and the Taldaram for lethal. Very nice play.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, that was super smart.
Yeah, I didn't even see the Taldaram
yeah.
play. I was like,
we had it all the way at the left. We probably should have saw that. But the fact that she did everything she could. She almost got there if she was able to get there with Gul'dan.
Right.
Very close. But Royce, strong plays, prepped a lot for this tournament. They all worked very hard for this tournament, and it's showing. 3-0 in a good spot leading into the break.
Yeah.
Players going to a lunch break, so they get to eat, refresh a little bit.
Yep. So do we.
Grab some cheesesteaks. We do too. But yeah, no, solid showing. The Warlocks coming through for Royce.
Yeah.
Q block, very tough deck to play, so it's very nice to see him get the win. Very well played by both players. I think they both really show what they had. No real blatant misplays or anything like that. Just some very interesting.
More
decks
blatant misplays by the casters, not seeing
we
random
misplayed more
cards
than
on the
they
side.
did.
Yeah.
So it's all good.